In this video, I'm going to upgrade the starter wiring on my Ducati Monster S4 using the exact start kit. The reason why I'm changing this is I've always had a bit of a starting issue. The bike would start but always kind of struggled, so this was the reason for the change in the wiring. Start by removing the seat. Then drain the petrol from the tank, as you don't want petrol spilling everywhere when you tilt the tank up. Now with the tank tilted back, which you do by releasing the catch at the front, I use bungees to hold my tank up, as the original little kind of holder that you'd have on the bonnet of a car of mine doesn't hold the tank up and keeps letting it slip and fall down. Always undo the negative first. Then undo the positive connection. Undo the battery retaining strap and remove the battery for safety. In the kit they give you these little rubber tubes that you can stick in behind the nut on the connector on the battery. This helps you not lose the little nuts that can easily fall out when you're trying to fit the battery. So I just put these in now so I wouldn't lose them. Remove the cable from the solenoid to the starter motor. It's amazing how on a naked bike like this that the wiring still all manages to catch up with itself, so it just takes a bit of fiddling, as their wiring is not overly flexible. And at the starter motor itself, remove the 10mm nut by removing the rubber cover boot that's on it first. You could have done this vice versa, whichever way, but I did it this way. This is the new feed from the solenoid to the starter motor. It's a red cable, and I decided that I would put on the supplied black heat shrink. I found with the boot removed on the side going to the solenoid, it was much easier to tread through the frame, as there's a lot of cables and things in the way there, so it's a bit difficult, and the cable isn't that flexible either. Put the red rubber boot on and tighten to the solenoid. There's these cleaning tissues they give you as well in little packs that are alcohol. I think they're alcohol free, but they actually clean off the surfaces so that you get a good connection. So you do that on both ends, both at the solenoid and the starter motor. You'll need to push the red rubber boot back as far as you can, because it's still difficult. They're not that flexible, and you'll need to get enough leeway so you can actually put on the 10mm nut and tighten onto the starter motor. I ended up using one of the very small 10mm ratchets I have, just because it was the only way I could get in with that rubber pushing back against it. But anyway, tighten it. Now the next step was to get the cable from the positive connection on the battery down to the solenoid, but I discovered in the instructions it says to piggyback it on under the original cable. But the problem with the original cable was that I had to bend it. Now luckily enough there was enough room between the battery and the ECU for me to allow to bend the original cable so it could piggyback on top of the new cable. If you haven't already connected this little cable from the solenoid, you need to do it, so give you a bit of access. And then I was loosening off the original cable. Again, you've got to piggyback this one here onto the solenoid, the one that comes from the positive down to the solenoid. You have to use the original cable as well, because the original cable also goes into the loom, so it can't be removed. This is why you have to piggyback the new cable onto both sides, both at the battery positive connection and at the solenoid connection. You need to remove the black boot on the original connector at the solenoid, because the other cable piggybacks on top, and you use the new red rubber cover on them both. Because of the amount of connector that was exposed now, I added a piece of heat shrink over it just to protect from any touching of the frame. With some stronger finger pushing, I managed to push the red boot out of the way so I could get the 10mm nut to connect the cable piggybacking on top of the original cable onto the solenoid. The next thing to be done is to put the new earth cable on. Again, this is going to piggyback on the original cable, but the issue I had was trying to get access to where the earth cable connects onto the back of the engine, so I had to remove the reservoir for the rear brake to get access in. The new earth cable seems to tread quite a long way around. It actually goes up the flame and loops back to the negative connector where on the battery. With the two cables now piggybacked and with a suitable spanner that you can manage to get in, just tighten them up with the new earthing cable piggybacked on top of the old earthing cable. Again, this is done because the earthing cable from the battery that comes down also goes into the loom, so you have to leave the original cable in place as well. The kit comes with a tube of gel that you can put on the connectors down at the starter motor and at the solenoid if you wish. This just is to help stop from corrosion setting in. You can connect the battery now at this stage. I had extra wires here. One was for a little arm and the other was for, a remote charging cable. So it was a little bit harder to get them down. I also put this little cover that I had over the positive connection and tied it on with a cable tie. On the negative side, despite what it says in the instructions, I had to do the piggyback the other way. The new cable was piggybacked on top of the original cable sideways because it was hitting off the ECU connectors, so it had to be done this way. With the tank back on and petrol in the tank, also had to use the red key first because battery was out for some time, so the key loss connection. So have your red key first to program your black key, and away she went. Please like, comment, share, subscribe. Thank you.